This is the Hunt Quietly podcast. I'm Matt Ranella.
Much to talk me into talking elk, so.
So, yeah, what made you start thinking about wound loss?
Well, long story short, I mean, I'm fairly new to hunting, and I've shot 5 big game animals so far, and I've missed shots on 2 of them. Luckily, I've recovered all the ones that I've shot at with follow-up shots. But my bull specifically, I made a pretty poor shot. Luckily, he decided to bed down 30 yards away and died right there a couple minutes later.
This is the
And
first
then a
one you
mule-
got?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that was last year, and then, I shot a mule deer a couple months later, and I made a very, very poor shot, shot him in the rear quarters, and I was like, "Well, I really wanna keep hunting the rest of my life, and I really wanna make sure I don't not recover an animal." And after talking to a lot of people, a lot of hunting buddies, I realized that people wound elk a lot more, or just animals in general, a lot more than I had the previous notion of. When you watch hunting shows and stuff, they just go out and they shoot an animal, um that they don't really show the injuries, the misses, all the bad stuff. So that's why I was digging into that. And also, I want more elk to be on the mountains too. So
Yeah, that's it. You're coming in at it from an interesting place. You probably know more about wound loss and the prevalence of wound loss than the average hunter, because you've dug into the data some, even though you're a newer hunter.
yeah,
He cared enough to look, right?
Yeah, right.
So appreciate that.
Yeah.
of course. I'm assuming it's something you guys have looked into, and you guys, I know Matt, I know you're an experienced hunter, so I'm sure it's something you've dealt with and you've had to figure out yourself, right?
Oh, I've wounded probably a dozen animals in my hunting career. Yeah.
Anybody that says that they haven't is lying.
I haven't
I mean,
yet.
it-
I haven't
No,
yet.
that's
it's
good. Yeah, that's good. Good for you. Good for you.
No, I mean, just over the course of their hunting career. I mean, they're just like,
if you've been at it a while, it will have happened. Although, Evan, I mean, you are coming at it with a level of seriousness that suggests perhaps you'll fare better than most.
Yeah,
I hope so. And the data I covered in that video about wounding loss and wounding elk, what I didn't cover is that I think.
Well, okay, just to back up, we gotta remember that our listeners are babes in the woods when it comes to.
Sure.
So Evan recorded a YouTube video about wound loss statistics, and you can find that on YouTube, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
we'll
sir.
post a link in the comments for Reddit, and we'll also I think you can put a link in like the
I can put it in the
podcast
show notes. Yeah.
put it in the show notes.
Yep.
So.
So yeah, tell us. Go ahead now that we've got the preliminaries in place.
Yeah, and I'll give a quick synopsis of the results of the research that I did, or the digging into the research that I did, I should say. I looked at 2 studies, and what they did was they tracked elk, they collared elk, and when they died, they did an autopsy or necropsy on the animal and saw what the cause of death was. And one thing they tracked was how many of the elk that died, how many of them got recovered by the hunters, and how many of them did not. And long story short, for rifle, it was around 20% of the elk that got killed never got recovered. So that doesn't include hunters who shot.
This was a Utah data set, right?
No. One was in Idaho, and the other one I want to say was in Montana. My memory doesn't go back.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there was a study in the Bitterroot Valley in Montana that looked into this. I just remember you in the video talking about Utah, right?
I'm in Utah, so that's probably where that got.
Okay. Oh no, you were talking about I think you were talking about some self-reporting data from Utah.
I do want to. I'm trying to run a study, but that's that's a totally different thing. That'll be in multiple states too. But so now that I'm remembering, the Montana part was in the Northern Sapphire Research Project.
You didn't in your video discuss some self-reporting data from Utah? Like some
And I've been
survey?
there, I don't think so.
Oh, all right.
I did. You're right. I 100% did. Yeah, there were that, and that was actually part of what sparked the idea. I did that so long ago, I forgot about it. But I got some reporting from the Utah DWR, and this is self-reporting that hunters fill out at the end of their season, which is mandatory, or else they face penalties and aren't able to apply for the next season. But it basically asks if they wounded an elk or a big game animal, right? Um, and the self-reporting was pretty low, and it was saying that on average, combining all the seasons, archery, rifle, muzzleloader, and youth, that the wounding rate for all the elk in the state of Utah was around 14%. So really not honestly that bad compared to the studies that I dug into. Um, the studies that I dug into for Montana and
You got to triple that, right? I would say.
about, and it depends on the category too. So combining both the Idaho Clearwater study and the Montana Northern Sapphire Research Project, rifle injury rates were around 20%. And again, that's fatal wounding rates. That doesn't include non-fatal wounding rates.
Okay, this has a different. You've moved on to a data with a different methodology, right? Where it's not self-reporting.
Correct. So
my little joke, what there was that. I mean, I don't like telling people when I wound something. You know.
Yeah.
There's been years where I've wounded 2 elk.
Yeah.
I've been with other hunters when they've wounded 2 elk in a year. So you can imagine. I mean, I'm coming clean now because I think it's important to come clean, but it's always like the first few months after it happens, I don't want to tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
hey, Adam, what do you want me to slow down about? You mean like speak more slowly? Adam's messaging me. Adam's critiquing my podcast hosting. So what are you getting at?
Let Evan talk.
Oh, I'm going to let Evan talk his ass off. Jeez, I just want to get a few preliminaries in place. No, Evan is going to get all the time he wants. I just want. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. Thanks for checking me.
I talk
Adam,
very fast. So,
but
all
right. So go ahead.
Right at. I mean, I'll touch on what you said.
I'm gonna go sit in the corner.
I wounded a deer. Luckily, I got a second shot and hit heart and lungs while he was on the run, but couldn't hit him square when he was sitting still, apparently. But I talk about that. I do believe it's important to be honest about wounding elk and wounding deer, because I think that part of the reason, and the numbers that we'll get into, part of the reason these numbers are so high on the fatal woundings of these big game animals is because people just don't have the right expectations. They probably had the expectations that I've had up until recently, that you just go into the mountains, you take a shot and it's good. The thought of wounding an elk, especially for newer hunters, we don't really think about that. We're so focused on finding them. We're so focused on our cartridge, on our rifle setup, getting the tag in the first place. Wounding an elk isn't something that we prepare for as much as we should. And I think the data will show that too. So I'll dump into it here. So this is separate from the self-reporting that I dug into for Utah. This is where they do an autopsy, a necropsy on the elk after they find it, and they compare how many of the elk that were killed were recovered and how many of the elk were not recovered, as long as they were killed by a hunter. For rifle season, combining both Idaho and Montana, those two studies, rifle fatal wounding rate was around 20%. It was higher for one of them and lower for the other. I can't remember which. And then archery, which had a lower sample size for both, was around 60% for fatal wounding rate.
What do they do with the one where the guy shoots it and takes the collar home? They go to his house?
In the Montana study specifically, they mentioned 2 instances where they had cut collars. So it seems like they left the collar there. I'm assuming they found the cut collar but didn't know what happened to the elk. So they're just assuming it got poached. So there was a couple.
What couldn't have been legitimately harvested, and just
I guess, but it's like, why would you move the collar? Why would you cut the collar off and trash it? It could be legitimately harvested.
Okay.
We don't know.
So a lot of these cases in the study have got to be people that shot the thing and brought the meat and the collar home.
Well, no, I don't think there was any reporting of where they brought the meat and the collar home, I guess. But as far as where there could have been poaching incidents, I think there was 2 in the Montana study. I think both were during the rifle season. So it wasn't, I mean, their poaching was a lot more prevalent than I'd realized it had been, but it wasn't enough to where it would significantly change the numbers, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, okay, so
but-
I'm getting you had in your video, you have categories, and Adam, I'm just getting the preliminaries down. Don't bark at me. You had a category, kill and recover.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when they enumerate that category, it's like they either took the tag home or left it at the carcass. I mean, took the collar home or left it with the carcass.
Well, I don't think anyone's taking the collar home. I think they're leaving it with the carcass. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. So you think a lot of these instances they shoot the elk. They're not like duck hunters where they want the band.
They feel like
you
the
know?
band.
Yeah, I've never
Okay.
left one of those. In the field.
Oh, if I shot a collared elk, I almost did last year, man. I almost
Really?
did. Yeah.
Did you decide not to, or it just didn't happen?
No, man. I was hunting this pond, and he jammed down into this pond, and he's like quartered away from me, 20 yards away, and I'm like, this thing's fucking dead, man. Like, and I drew back, and I wasn't even careful because he was slurping water,
Mm.
and he saw that. Even though he was looking away, he swam the whole pond and ran off.
You swam the pond. Huh?
Swam the pond.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, did you draw slow or did you draw quick just because he wasn't looking?
I was hubristic about it. I was like, this thing's dead. He doesn't have a clue what's going on. He came in at like 2 PM. It was 80 degrees. His eyes are all bugged out because he's like, give me some water. I need some water. You know, like because he's been chasing cows.
Mm.
And,
yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to try to interrupt Les. I swear.
Oh,
let's carry on. Now I understand what you're getting at. You think that they leave them behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it as far as those studies go. So rifle wounding rate around 20%, archery around 60%. That's just fatal wounding rate. It doesn't include how often we miss or how often we just injured the animal without killing it. I've definitely seen multiple bulls hopping around in the wintertime because they got hit by something and seem to survive for a couple of months at least. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just the fatal wounding.
Okay, so 60% of the elk that are shot at with a bow die and are not recovered?
No, I want to be more specific than that. 60% of the elk that are killed are not recovered. Yes.
That's a huge number.
That is a massive number. And the reason I specify that is, again, because if you were going to say 60% of the elk that get shot at get injured and don't get recovered by archery, that wouldn't be correct, because that would mean you'd have a 40% success rate every time you shoot at an elk.
Mm-hmm.
But 60% is the ones that get killed versus not get killed. That 40% gets lowered by the misses, like the complete misses, and it gets even lower further by the injuries. So it's a distinction there. And this study, in those two studies, you can't tell the other two categories of misses and injuries. You can only tell the fatal woundings.
Yep. So they took all the elk that got shot. Well, you don't even know if it got shot. I mean, you got to make a judgment on that, I guess. Like,
yeah, and they described the necropsy they did on it, and they checked the predators. They checked if it was hit by a car was more obvious, but and then they based it based on the season dates too, depending on if it was archery or rifle. That played into it also.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think the first lesson to learn there is just how damn tough an elk is. Like, I think pound for pound, they might be one of the toughest critters on the continent for their willingness to live. I mean, would you agree with that, Matt? I mean,
man, yeah.
They're
not like
they're tough.
The gamut runs in my mind from antelope, which, like, if you get an arrow in them, they're probably going to die, even if it's not well placed. And that's not to say take it lightly. I don't take it lightly. I'm somebody that loses a hell of a lot of sleep when I wound something, but there's a little bit of forgiveness with an antelope, not with an elk.
I
So then
totally agree.
that's my question to you guys, because you guys probably have way more experience than I do. You know, what A, what is causing this, this low success rate every time we shoot at an elk, both rifle and archery? And B, what's something that most hunters can do to fix it?
Um, one thing that I'm just, and this doesn't encompass all of it, but I right off the bat, like the things that comes to mind is guys that will spend the $1,000 on a tag, pay the outfitter however many $1,000, their travel expenses, get their taxidermist lined up, and then they want to buy the cheapest box of ammo they can find.
Mm,
That and just not have a good bullet. I know that that's at least some of it. That
okay.
and that's just for your rifle guys. Um, for your archery, there's just I think a lot of it is guys stretching their distance way farther than it should be. They put a lot of pressure on themselves to fill a tag. Like I spent all this money on this tag, I got to fill this tag. What do I get? And they're willing to launch an arrow, however far because hey, somebody else can do it. Why can't I? Well,
Mhm,
I mean, they're not taking into account how damn difficult that is. They're not respecting elk for just how heavily boned they are, and heavy hide too. Um, I mean, they're just, I don't think I told you this at all, Evan, but like I'm a hunter's education instructor, and like a couple things I teach is one good shot is worth 10 bad ones. Um, and don't shoot beyond your capabilities, but also that an animal wants to live a hell of a lot more than you want to kill it. Like they're hunted 24 hours a day in a lot of places, from either two-legged predator or four-legged predator, and they're tough. I mean, they're tougher than we are mentally. I mean, it's not even close. So
I agree with Adam that the critters are tough, and the shot's got to be pretty well placed, or horribly placed, but luckily placed. Like I've seen people, you know, kill deer and elk by shooting them in the ass and hitting the
mm,
femoral artery. Like I've seen people kill animals where they could have made a better shot and missed completely. They would have hit closer to where they were supposedly aiming
mm.
had they missed.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
and the taking too long of a poke, I agree. With me personally, it's buck fever or bull
Okay.
fever or
yeah,
whatever. That is.
I
And
think
you
a
experience that
lot of
more
guys
with sorry, go
practice
ahead,
under
Adam.
ideal. I think a lot of guys probably practice under ideal conditions. You know what I mean? They're super calm. There's no wind in their backyard, or they're shooting inside, and they
Mhm,
think that perfectly translates over to shooting in mountain winds.
mhm,
um, which I mean, gosh, that could blow an arrow or a bullet anywhere. Like it just, I mean, it's and then on top of it, that buck fever, I think you mentioned a bit, Evan, like people like oftentimes maybe they're not in shape or something like that, and they're not practicing while having like an elevated heart rate. Put your pack on, go hike a mile, then go practice, then go shoot. you know,
mhm,
it makes a huge difference. And when you're talking about a kill zone that's maybe 12 inches across, give or take on an elk, maybe 8 on a deer, um, being unsteady or wind can easily take you out of the kill area. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah.
realistic practice for me, I'd have to do a few lines of coke and win the lottery,
yeah,
and then go shoot my bow, and then that would be about how I feel. That'd be
I don't know if
about
that's your
how I
systematic go
feel when
about
I'm
it.
shooting at an elk.
I'm
That
gonna
sounds
get
like
this
an expensive
podcast
way to
flagged.
practice, but a fun way to practice. Well, I think
No,
most
I
people
like
would practice if you did it that way.
what's that?
I think more people would be addicted to practicing. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just like I'm an emotional overdrive. And there's this, and I'm getting to I want to answer the second part of your question. Like, you said, how do we prevent it?
How can they fix it? What can they do to be better?
Yeah. So there's with me, and I suspect that this is, widespread. There's a tendency to think you have less time to execute the shot than you really do. And if you can force yourself to be like, this shot is going to go off like I've been practicing all season or year leading up to this point, it's going to go off like that. And if that means he walks, then the shot doesn't happen. And I think if I could go back and fix all the times, correct all the times where I didn't succeed in maintaining that mindset, then I wouldn't have wounded as many animals. One thing I've done with my archery in the last couple years is I've it's a little embarrassing. This will be the second year I've hunted this way. And it's embarrassing because it's the way you're supposed to shoot, is to execute a surprise shot. And and I think that I did wound an elk last year. I wounded an elk, and then I killed an elk, and then I killed an antelope with my bow. And when I wounded the one, I didn't execute a surprise shot. I deviated from the plan and command shot. Like, oh, he's gonna get away, shoot. So that what I'm getting at with the surprise shot is it's like it forces you to stick with your shot process. It's like, I'm going to pull this bow back and I'm going to increase pressure until I'm going to put the pin where it needs to be. I'm going to keep increase pressure until it goes off. And if I don't have time to do that, then this wasn't meant to be. I don't know. I'm the last person that should be giving advice about this, but.
Well, I mean, what you're describing has been my main problem actually with the rifle. Because I tend to rush my shot, and I actually don't get buck fever at all, which is weird because I especially with my bull, I put so much effort and so many years into finally getting a shot on a bull, and when it came, I got it in, called it into range. It felt great. The shot wasn't great because the lighting wasn't great.
Are you using beta blockers?
Nope. No, I don't use anything. Just a little bit of.
You're just a chill dude. You're just a chill dude.
But when awesome. I shot that bull, and I was like, wow, this is great, man. This is what I've been working so hard for like 4 years now. This is great. But I thought I'd be ecstatic. I thought I'd be like jumping up and down, and I was like, great. Now I got to pack it out. Now I got to figure out how to gut it. Now I got to do all this. It was like, it was a very satisfying feeling, but it wasn't an exciting feeling. It was a very, I would say, gratifying.
No.
I would say gratifying. But back to rushing shots on my deer that I shot in the rear quarters on the first shot. There was a couple other reasons I made a poor shot, but the main one was that I'd rushed my shot, and I didn't feel any pressure at all on this deer. It was other than time. It was a spike deer. I'd only had a day and a half to hunt, and I didn't see any bigger bucks, or I didn't have a shot opportunity on any bigger bucks, and I had to head home that day. So I shot a little spike, or I saw the spike, pulled up on it, got ready, and my stock was a little off, and it wasn't comfortable because I did a lot of stuff with my stock, and then I pulled the trigger, and I kept thinking, I have to hurry and pull the trigger, else this deer is going to walk away. I also felt the sense of time, like I have to get out of here soon. I have to hurry and kill this deer. I got to pack it out. I got to leave within 2 hours. And ended up making a very poor shot. Luckily, I got a second shot on it and took it down. But that was something I fixed, or I tried to fix for my cow hunt that I had about 2 months later. And I'm kind of like you said, a little bit different, is I realized that I was rushing my shot. So I had a sequence in mind that I wanted to pull the trigger to, which was line up the target in the sight on the crosshairs, breathe in, put my finger on the trigger, breathe out, breathe in, and as I exhale, pull the trigger.
And that's
Now,
how you
something like
practice
that,
your shooting too?
and that's how I practiced since I wounded that deer, since I made the poor shot on that deer. And that's probably not the best for long range shooting because you're exhaling while you're breathing out. But the problem that I was trying to solve was rushing my shot. So
Mhm.
and it did work. I made 2 good shots on that cow, shot her once, she flipped around, shot her again, she was down. So and they were both good lung shots right where I was aiming. So I do think rushing a shot, whether it's from buck fever or from just because you feel the animal's gonna move soon, which is my main factor, rushing a shot is a big problem that I think we need to be able to figure out.
Mhm. Yeah, agreed.
I'd agree that's probably a big part of it. I thinking back, yeah, there's definitely some shots where if I'd have just waited, I'd have been a better, I'd it would have made a better shot. I can only think of one opportunity where I had if I waited too damn long and he figured me out and left. But that's just 'cause I waited when I had a good window, I was waiting for a perfect window, and instead I should have took the good window. Um, but looking back, who cares? So
Well, and like Matt said, I think it's something I was expecting going into the cow hunt that, the following couple months is I realized I'm probably gonna lose an animal or 2 because I'm waiting too long. I'd rather lose an animal by not shooting than wounding animal because I rushed the shot. And I think you just have to accept that if you're gonna wait for the right shot, you're gonna lose a couple. And that's the name of the game. That's the price.
I think you'll kill more though. You know? I think you will kill more.
Yep.
Which is the crazy. I mean, it's like if I could just go back, I was for several years I was joking about this, but kind of not, that they should make a release that the timer stops on it when you pull back. The starts
like a
on
kitchen timer, it just goes
There's
off.
a timer on it, starts, and then once you're at full draw, it will not fire for 5 seconds, which is a hell of a long time.
That's a very long time.
If I would have been hunting with that release for the last 40 years, I think I would have killed more stuff.
That's interesting.
Matt, you know about back tension releases, right?
Yeah, but you can command shoot those.
You can, but I bet it'd slow you down some.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
rushing the shot,
Just a thought.
huge deal. Yeah, Evan, any more in the way of stats? If not, I'm going to ask some philosophical questions. At some point, I got a couple philosophical questions I want to ask, but
I had a few here. And this will touch on stats too. Do you feel like you wounded a lot more elk earlier on as you were a newer hunter, or just big game in general? Do you feel like you've gotten much better at making better shots?
yeah, I hadn't wounded something in a long time until last year. But
Yeah.
okay. But last year, I wounded that one, and 2 years before that, I missed one completely. Which, like, I said that thing about I've seen people where they could have made a way better shot and missed, but that aside, I mean, missing, I mean, you're just lucky you didn't wound it. Right? Like, your head was not in the right place, or you took a shot you shouldn't have.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better
Just
to miss
as
than to
much.
hit an animal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're if you're a consequentialist, all you care about is whether you miss it or wound it or not. But in terms of what you actually did, there's no difference. It's kind of like one guy goes to the bar and gets drunk. He runs a stop sign and there's nobody at a 4-way intersection. There's no one there and he drives home. And then the next guy drinks the same number of beers, leaves the bar 20 minutes later, runs the same 4-way, T-bones somebody and gets manslaughter charge. Like, they both did the same thing wrong, right? And the rest of it's just by dint of circumstance, there didn't happen to be another vehicle there.
Yeah.
So, I guess this is a long-winded way of saying a miss is just as bad as a wound in terms of the hunter's performance.
In terms of skill-wise, absolutely. Yeah.
Or performance, decision-making. Yeah, right.
Yep. Absolutely.
What do you think? What do you think about that, Adam? You're thinking, man.
I mean, consequences versus non-consequences, right? I guess. There's the luck element that I think it's where you're going for there, but I know you're similar, Matt. Like I had about 10 years of the shanks with my bow before I figured out what I was doing wrong. Been a lot better since then. That does not mean I wounded 10 animals in 10 years. It was just, there was years I ate tags and what have you, which is fine. But yeah, there were like, what ended up that being is I was actually overconfident in my own ability to set up a bow. Just something really stupid. There was, the hubris on that. So I'm thankful I got that figured out. One, I did actually get closure on it. That the animal was only wounded and survived, and another hunter took him later in the season actually, and that was cool to at least get that confirmation. So it's just.
Well, so let me ask you, man, after 10 years, what was the change that worked? Because I work with clients now who go elk hunting and they're relatively new, and almost all of them say they get buck fever. So what has worked in that regard?
I can't say anything to buck fever as far as pre-shot. I get buck fever after the shot. If I'm sitting in my sitting in my tree stand, like I have to like physically grab my tree stand after the shot for like a good 5 minutes before I can trust myself to climb down or I'm gonna fall down. So at least that way I'm beneficial. I like buck fever. I love that excitement that I get, but I need it. I'm glad I don't get it till afterwards. That's just physiological. That's just luck. With the stupid problem when I had like 10 years of the shanks with my bow, I should have had a professional look at my bow. Like it was that dumb. Like I was like crossed up on my sights versus my rest. Like it wasn't lining up the way it was supposed to because I insisted on working on all my own stuff because I went down a rabbit hole of archery tuning, and you can either go so far down the rabbit hole that that you're chasing like just perfection, or you can just pick up and shoot. I don't I think there's only one way or the other for archery guys. But now a lot of it was just getting out of my own head. Like, what I started going into it expecting failure, and but I had set myself up for failure. Looking back on it now, it's like, man, how stupid could you be? Gets like figure it out, man. But now, last two critters killed no problems, and nothing was, they weren't easier shots, they weren't closer, they weren't nothing like that. It was just, like expect success and get your practice in. Me and Matt shoot together probably once a month. Next time I'll see you, I'll bring my bow back.
Please, yeah.
And we just and then a big thing now that's happened last year or two is like directly teaching my son how to shoot. So going over all like the basic lessons again in my own head, like don't forget anything type deal. So, and it's working out for me. So, and it worked great for my son last year because like he executed to perfection of where, to where picking his shot, and it was great watching him readjust, adjust, and to make sure that he didn't want to wound anything, he didn't want to screw up, and he waited for the perfect shot. It wasn't even the biggest animal; it was just the one that he had the perfect shot on, and I was so proud of him in that moment of the patience that he had for it. So
yeah, that's gonna be super gratifying. I'm looking forward to hunting with my kids one day when I have them. So that's gonna be awesome, man. Um, One thing I'll touch on last on wounding rates and things like that, and this is my personal opinion. It's not, I wouldn't say it's data-based or science-based, but in my opinion, a big, maybe not the biggest, but a very big reason I think we wound so many animals, and Adam, you touched on this, was I think an overemphasis on the weapon system to the point where either we mess something up or we're spending way too much time and money focusing on it. And I can give myself as an example. Last year, I built a new rifle. I 3D printed the grip. I 3D printed the stock. I was super excited about it. But after all that time and money, I only have, I work a lot. I only have so much time and money to go practicing. I probably spent 40 rounds on that rifle before I went hunting. That was dumb decision, right? But I was so fixated on the rifle, on the setup, on the build. If I had spent the $1,000 or $1,500, whatever that I'd spent on this fancy new rifle, I would have been way better with my old 30-06. I would have 100% been better that year. So that's my 2 cents. I do think there's an overemphasis on the wrong things a lot of the time.
I harp on that a lot with my students, that there's no gadget I've ever picked up that's made me a better hunter, like, flat out.
Well, but earlier, just to challenge you a bit, you said that buying a cheap box of shells is a contributing factor.
That's not a gadget.
Okay. Okay.
Like, yeah, good ammo, but that's not gadgetry. That's like, that I shoot out of the box rifles. Whenever somebody asks me, like, what would make people more successful in the field, there a lot of guys are looking to sell something or they want to invent something. I tell them, invent a holiday in mid-November that we all get off work. Like, one more day in the field will make you more successful than any gadget will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I put a low premium on equipment. Like, okay, in a sense. Like, to me, it's like pretty damn easy to make sure that shit's dialed. Like, that shouldn't even be a factor.
I put no emphasis on.
So it's like, I just can't imagine going out into the field with it being like, I got some questions about my freaking setup.
Yeah.
Like, all the shit I've wounded was with shit that I was, like, I knew the equipment could do the job.
Sure.
When I fucked up, it's been me.
Well, and I teach, like, again, the best caliber is the one you can shoot accurately. So I teach, basically, shoot the biggest one that you can shoot accurately.
Yeah,
that's
the
only
video I just made came out at 6 p.m. right when we started this interview, and that's on cartridges, and that's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
if all you can shoot is
versus cartridge or power.
if all you can shoot is a 243 without flinching, I will take that 100 times over a guy that brings out a damn cannon and he's got to close his eyes and wince every time he shoots.
I absolutely agree, because it's 95% about shot placement. 95%.
So my go-to elk rifle, it's either a 300 Win Mag, which is on the bigger side, or a 7mm Mod 8, and which is not a big caliber.
No.
I picked it because it's low recoil and my kid can shoot it. Like, I let him grow into it. Like, we share that rifle, and I will happily shoot that rifle at elk, moose, what have you, because I know it's accurate. It's gonna go where I want it to, and that's so much more important. And then shooting a good bullet. So.
Yep, and that's pretty similar to the conclusion I came to. There's a lot more specifics to it than that. To touch on, how much caliber affects lethality, how much bullet weight affects it. I don't really touch on bullet type. I want to make a separate video on that. I don't think I'm gonna have time to this year, but bullet type seems to make much more of a difference in the data than cartridge does. Like, by far.
I believe that. Like, a good solid, like, I've made the switch to coppers for just because their consistency with what you get out of them. Like, they're very predictable for, if you recover the bullet, you're almost certainly going to have the floor pedal. If you shoot a 140 grain bullet, you're probably going to recover about 137 grains of it. And, like, you just don't get that splash from lead. Like, so, I've been convinced, like, I've seen them work, but, like, if you really wanna, like, get into, like, caliber really isn't the biggest deal, like, you're familiar with the website Rockslide?
Yep.
Okay, there's a guys on there that they have, like, specifically 223, which is, like, the smallest legal caliber for most states, and they're hunting moose with it. And he's showing, like like, they're showing, bullets, how they're recovering them, and it's all about bullet placement. They're going through shoulder blades with them, but they're shooting very good bullets. They're shooting them in the right spot, but, like, it wouldn't be my recommendation, but I can't argue with their results. So,
Yeah. So two points on that. I do want to move to the philosophical question because I don't want to run out of time. But
Oh, we're not gonna run out of time. I might have said an hour in the invite, but we can talk as long as we want.
well,
he
I'll
might run out of
probably have
time
to
now.
go at 7 at the earliest, but possibly around 7:15. So I won't.
What's that? What was it? You got to leave at 7:15?
Yeah, I'll have to leave around 7:15.
Oh, that's bullshit. Come on.
Need some more
All
coke,
right.
man. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, in the video that came out 48 minutes ago, I touched on that exact rock slide form, that 223 form. I touched on
Mhm.
how they're killing moose and it's getting double lungs with the 223. I also, and as far as bullet too, I haven't made a video on this yet, but on the contrary to what you're saying, lead bullets seem to be much more effective at killing animals quicker than copper. Now, these studies, they track flight distance. They don't track how many animals get recovered. So it's hard to transfer flight distance, how far the animal runs after it gets shot, into how many animals actually get recovered.
Sure.
But lead,
Yeah, I haven't paid any
seems to get the
attention to
work.
that. It's just whether it recovered it or not. Like, I
Uh,
don't care how far
uh,
the tracking is.
okay. Oh, god dang it. Now I'm gonna have to do this. You know I don't want to.
You took the
What
bait.
what are the what are the data?
So one of the studies, and this one was on sambar deer in Australia, which if you're familiar with them, they're not quite as big as elk. They're the third biggest deer species in the world. So they're about couple hundred pounds lighter than elk. But they found when you shoot,
No, 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 not what they found. I'm way more interested in what the study design was.
the study design was they shot various cartridges of lead bullets and copper bullets, and then
Okay.
they equated for energy, and then tested how far the animals ran after they got shot.
Oh. So this
Yep.
was like a true experiment.
Yep. Yep.
Whoa.
This is published data.
Whoa. That is
I
so
think I'm gonna have you
cool.
back on, Evan.
That is
What?
so cool. I didn't know they
Wha-
did a study like that.
Oh yeah, there's a couple like that. There's a
Okay,
couple.
so
And this
what
one
did
found
they
the biggest difference. And
I can't
watch
wait
the
to watch your
video.
video now.
Yeah, you guys may disagree with it. You might like it. You might like parts of it or disagree with parts of it. But essentially, in that study specifically, there are some that disagree with it. But in that study specifically, after equating for impact energy, the sambar deer that were shot with lead ran 50%,
What
56%
is
less
the impact?
far.
What do you mean equating for or controlling for impact density?
Yeah, so they use a bunch of they use anything from a 270 Winchester all the way up to a 338
Oh, well, they
Latua.
should have held that constant unless they got a large sample size.
They should
But
have. And the other issue too is that lead bullets or copper bullets tend to be loaded hotter, so they're loaded faster.
Oh, yeah.
oh, they
Yeah,
should
you
have
wanna push it.
controlled for that too.
They did. So that's why they controlled for
How
impact
many
energy.
how many animals were shot in this study?
That's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Because now we're talking about um le- typically it takes about 10 this is a gross simplification, but it takes about 10 observations to estimate a parameter. So
Yeah.
like a regression parameter. So if they were going to try to study the effect of lead versus copper, and then that's the treatment variable of interest. But then they have different amounts of powder and different calibers, then they better had quite a few, and there might be an interaction. There might be a grains of powder by type of ammo interaction. Whereby if the grains of powder is low, lead is better, but if grains of powder is high, then copper's
Yeah.
better. That
Yeah,
kind of thing.
so as far I'm trying to look for the study here. It's somewhere in the stack, but I mean, they had a lot of observations. I think they had more than 10 cartridges that were used, so they had quite a few. It
Okay.
wasn't a small sample size.
Okay.
I really want to dive into that, but I just don't know if we have the time for that.
Yeah, we won't. But they talk about p values. They talk about correlation. You know, they give a full rundown on it. And long story
What's the
short,
journal?
oh God, I don't remember.
Okay, you don't need to dig through that stack. That's
Okay.
fine.
Oh, it's a lot. Okay. But yeah.
But
long story
I
short,
applaud you. I just love the fact that you're thinking about stuff, man. That's
sweet. Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
awesome.
Appreciate it. And, you
I
know,
really
there was
can't.
one study with a CT scan where it was smaller animals. I wanna say it was in New Zealand, and they did CT scans on the wound channels, and there was some pigs mixed in there too. It was New Zealand. And they found that the wound channels were pretty much the same between lead and copper. Now, they didn't measure flight distance or how many animals got recovered, but they did find the wound channels to be very, very similar in total volume. Obviously, the coppers tend to be deeper, leads tend to be wider, but for total volume.
Okay.
I have no data about it. It's just my anecdotal stuff.
Yeah.
I just and yeah, what I've found with copper is like I call it splash damage with lead, that you get that really like bloodshot, like a big bloody spot, like that's like a lot of that dark red stuff that's like in the wound that you have to cut around. What I found with my coppers is like the meat is good right up to the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is there's no way to quantify that. There's no reason to quantify that. But anecdotally, I found that like I was getting more meat back, so which makes a big deal to me. So
Absolutely, and that's the dichotomy of is I do believe lead bullets in most cases are more efficient at killing animals, but damn, I like the meat. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
wish copper bullets absolutely will save you more meat. And there's studies that say, is lead bad for you? Is it not when it's coming from a bullet? Who knows? I haven't read into those yet. But yeah, that's the thing. I'm kind of balanced. I definitely prefer copper for meat, but I prefer lead for lethality.
I think there's some pretty good
Yeah.
evidence that lead is hard as hell on raptors. I think that's pretty solid data,
Yeah, and that's
And
why
that's
there's so many
something
studies.
that's something we should be concerned about, in my view.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd agree. Just as a guy that likes seeing wildlife on the landscape,
Yeah.
if it's
I
something.
grew up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We made the switch to steel for ducks, so, like, it's really not all that different, and I know the big part is, like, it took way too damn long for them to get good steel loads for our waterfall guys, and, like, that's why they ended up hating steel so much, but steel loads today they're actually pretty good, so.
There's some pretty good clinical evidence that lead has lowered IQ points in some parts of the country, but they've studied like municipalities or large urban centers that had leaded gas and not leaded gas, and then
See,
looked at.
that's tough. You run into so much correlation with that too. How do you determine causation with that?
Well,
That's tough.
that's a good question, and it's fair, and you could be right. But there's a lot of questions out there that I go, what set of observations would somebody actually have to make to substantiate a claim? And in a lot of cases, they'll be like, there's no set of observations one could make to substantiate this. In principle, I could see where you could make this claim. And, some pretty smart people have looked into it. So I'm open to it. Plus I have my own anecdote there. I grew up fishing steelhead, and I walked around for 10 years with split shot between my cheek and gum. And I gotta think that has some bearing
that's
on
proof
me.
that's bad for you, man.
Me being the way I am.
I can attest to that. I believe that.
Yeah.
That's anecdotal evidence that I believe.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into the philosophical.
Let's move on to our philosophical.
Okay. The first one's more biological, but maybe somewhat philosophical. It's a two-parter. First, hedibus paribus. That's like fancy Latin for holding all else equal and just changing one thing. And we're going to change in this hypothetical hunting situation is the gender of the hunter. And I think that the wound rate wound loss rate would be lower with the woman.
Explain.
I just think that that's true.
Well, you got to have reason.
You think it's like a patience thing, Matt, or what?
Do you guys agree or do you not agree? First, that's the first part. Do you agree or not agree, or you don't have an opinion?
I could be talked into it based on patience and maybe less ego going into the shot. That women could be, they won't take the shot unless they're perfect about, or they know that it's going to, or, they're not as concerned about like I have to fill this tag, but I got no data to back it up whatsoever.
You answered part one and part two. I think the woman would have a lower wound loss, and I have my reasons why I think that is, but you gave both. You said you think it would be the woman have a lower wound loss rate, and you gave a mechanism, which is ego. Yeah. So Evan, you don't have a strong take on that one either way.
Well, I have some data to add to it.
Sandbag again.
It was a study. It was part of the study I was rereading today, but part of it's in the video too. But I didn't talk about this part in the video. But they did one study did test for military training, male versus female, and they were testing accuracy with M4s, M16s, and a G36, so 5.56 rifles, military rifles. And for male and female, just those, whatever French saying he gave me, just on their own, male and female, there wasn't a significant difference. But not thinking about male and female, hand size made a big difference, strength made a big difference in accuracy. And leaning towards the stronger you are, the bigger your hands are. They measured neck circumference. Those all had big indicators that you were going to flinch a lot less and be more accurate.
Okay.
So I do think males, not under a hunting scenario, just under target practice, I think males in general, because they're bigger and other factors, will be more accurate. But that's just
I did not consider that at all.
Yeah, I would not have. I would have thought a little rinky dink dude would be a better shooter. And whether a woman is a better shooter or a man, I would have guessed men would be on average better shooters, which is what your data indicates. I'm not even going to try to postulate a mechanism for any of this, but I do feel like men on average are probably better shots, but in holding all else equal in a hunting situation, the woman's going to do a better job, would be my guess. And I think, and with you, Adam, I think it's ego. Like,
ego is a big problem just in hunting in general.
The guy is like getting ready to take the shot, and he's like, man, my buddies ain't going to believe this. Like, holy shit, look at this. And the gal is just present. She's present.
Now, we're talking rifle only, not archery?
No. I'm talking both. Are
you factoring in bow poundage too?
Oh, I said all else equal. But
okay.
Yeah, but even if you let the gal have a less poundage, I still think that.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm not committed to it. It's just my intuition.
I'll tell you what. I got a close friend who killed her first bull 2 years ago. She'd killed a cow before too in a different state. But
what state you live in?
Utah.
Okay, Utah. That's right. You said that earlier. I apologize.
Over the counter bull. It was cool because I met her on the trail while her and her dad were packing out her bull. I think she was like 19 or 20 at the time, and to see this 5'3" chick packing out a bull was friggin' awesome. But she killed a bull. She's killed a cow. She hasn't wounded an elk to the best of my knowledge, most for what we've talked about. And she's doing archery this year. So I'll have a small data set, but I'll have some. And my girlfriend, who's freaking amazing, my girlfriend's getting into hunting too, and she really wants to get something this year. So hopefully I'll have some interesting data on that.
Okay, good. We'll break it down by gender.
I have my philosophical question here as well. Evan, I am not holding you. This is not Evan's opinion. This is probably me and Matt's opinion. But Evan, you feel free to say I don't agree with this at all, and I will not stand on this. So You know a bit about what we're about, Evan, about like cutting a lot of bullshit out of hunting. We're not a huge fan of hunting celebrities
Mhm.
and what have you, influencers. So, um, and just looking at your data here and in my, and how you've explained it, um, a lot of these hunting celebrities, they get big not because they're good hunters. They get big because they make compelling content and their ability to sell, both their content and the products that they're sponsored. Um, Not necessarily because they're a better shot or anything like that. So I'm just concerned, that these dudes that are killing for content 5, 6 elk a year, which we've documented before, Evan. I don't know if you've listened to any of our other stuff. Um, but they, we just calculated like you guys are, some of these guys are killing 5, 6 elk a year just for content or and more deer. And so, if that wound rate is such that it is, how many elk are these guys truly shooting? How many are coming off the mountain? How many are not coming off the mountain? Just running the numbers. Just like how many arrows are they letting fly? How many bullets are they letting fly? For the sake of content and and just how much more me that draws an elk tag every 4 years can because I'm only putting in for one state. Just like who's really putting the herding on the elk herd here? That
Sure.
that
What state are you in? You only get to tag once every 4 years.
So I live in North Dakota.
Okay.
So I've got my once in a lifetime North Dakota tag,
Elk tag.
and filled that tag, and it's been nearly a decade, it's been over a decade for that. But then I hunt I've hunted Wyoming and I hunt Montana.
Yeah.
And I can only draw, and for me it's a proximity issue for me that I would love to come down and hunt your way. I would love to even go further south down to New Mexico and hunt the Gila. Yeah, I would love to go chase those coastal Roosevelts. But for me, it's a logistics thing. Is like I've got to be X amount of distance from my business that I run, and I got to make sure I can get that animal back without losing it. And I'm a DIY hunter. I'm not going to hire an outfitter. Nothing against necessarily, but it's how I operate. So like I'm limited to where I can go drive to essentially. So I'm not gonna put in for every Western state. Um so yeah, just thinking about this wound loss rate, and thinking that these guys are no better than us as hunters, like what's actually happening out there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
so I'll touch on my opinions on the wound loss, and I'll dive deeper into the morality of it too. Killing 5, 6 bulls a year. As far as the wound loss, I don't know. I like we said earlier, I do believe it is skewed towards the extreme. So I do believe if you're a newer hunter, you're far more likely and not gonna have a much higher fatal wounding rate than someone like you guys who've been hunting multiple years.
Mhm.
So someone who is killing 5 or 6 bulls a year, I would expect them to not be wounding the average amount. I would expect them to be wounding much less. Hopefully. No idea. I've also heard of people where they get on these hunting shows and they have the guide shoot it and then they take a picture as if they shot it too. I've heard of some crazy stuff. So that's my take
For
on that. Are they wound
We've
losses?
documented some of that, Evan.
Really? That's not good. That's
or,
not
or, or, or substantial wound loss
I've
from
been with hunting celebrities, and people are gonna just jump to my brother, but that's not who I'm talking to about. But I've watched him wound plenty of stuff before he was a hunting celebrity. But
Yeah.
I was with a hunting celebrity one time, not my brother, and he wounded 2 elk with his bow on the same trip. I don't know why I'm not saying his name right now, other than I'm just kind of in like a charitable mood right now, like because it's not the kind of thing I'm secretive about. I don't think if anything, I think these guys wound more stuff because of the pressure to generate content.
That's a fair point. That's something to think about too. Um, I, I really have no problem if someone wants to go and kill 5 or 6 bulls a year. I have no problem if they want to do that whatsoever. I guess
Oh
I
well,
only have,
that's how we're gonna
yeah,
end
we'll
up
jump right
this
into it, man.
episode.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have, as long as they're using the meat and it does not go to waste, no problem to me whatsoever. Now, how are they going to use 5 or 6 bulls? That's certainly a challenge. I plan to kill 3 bulls this year. I killed 2 elk last year. We're already almost completely done with the bull. We're halfway done with the cow. I could absolutely eat 3 bulls in a year. I eat elk every single day, multiple times a day. I love it. I have no problem. My only grief with that is the fact that they're doing it for content, and you know what I mean? I don't know their intentions, but I'm assuming because the money's there, they're doing a lot of it for content. Um, as long as they're not wasting meat, I don't like killing things I'm not gonna eat. I don't even like killing coyotes unless I'm gonna eat it. I don't like killing gophers unless I'm gonna eat it. I'm all about the meat. I love trophy too, but I'm not gonna kill something I'm not gonna eat.
Okay.
And we're
All
fine
right.
with that, Evan.
Yeah. So I guess there's nothing to unpack there because as long as you and your family are eating it,
Yeah.
like if you're giving a little bit away, I'm even okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't think any of it belongs on social media, but that I can, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to.
I've probably given of my bull that I shot, I've probably given about 30 pounds away.
Okay, that's reasonable.
And I think it's great, man. I think I mean, first of all, to me, it was such an accomplishment to be able to shoot a bull and to be able to share that with not just my family, but people I care about at work, people who ask me if they can have some. And I tell them, absolutely, you can have some as long as you promise to do your best to not waste any of it.
Where I draw the line is when you're shooting way more than you need to sustain yourself, not giving away 30 pounds, which is not much out of a freaking elk. You're shooting way more than you need and giving it all away. When there are so many people that would just love to shoot one elk. And for me, it's like, then if you really cared about other people, what you'd be doing is taking them hunting and helping them. You know, that's where I draw. Well, that's one of the places I draw the line, and the other place I draw the line is none of it belongs on social media. So, okay, fair enough. We might have time for a different one if we're good there.
Well, let's let it. Evan, did you have anything you wanted to wrap?
Yeah, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, as far as I get what you're saying as far as, okay, there's these guys who are really good at hunting. They go kill 6 bulls in a year. What about the guy who just started hunting who can't find a bull to save his life? And to me, I think that it is hard to hunt elk, especially on public over-the-counter tags, and that's really all I care about. I'm okay with it being difficult. I like that it is difficult. To me, if someone's really good at killing an elk and they kill elk and it makes it harder on me, I don't see that as a detriment. I see that as more of a challenge. And I transpose, I put that onto other people too. Whatever someone else is going to do, whatever, if they're killing X amount of bulls, they're killing X amount of cows, I'm not worried on them. I'm worried on what I can do as a hunter. And I can only control myself. I'm not worried about what someone else is doing.
Oh yeah, but okay,
that's where I'm at.
Let him finish, Matt. Let him finish.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That was it.
Sorry, Adam.
Well, that was
but like that. There's all kinds of laws. So whatever the laws are is what you go with.
No. I think it comes back to meat too. As long as the meat's being used, as long as it's not being wasted, I think if you're able to kill 5 bulls in a year, more power to you.
I think a lot of it for me is what's driving the person. Like if they're killing solely for content, because they got to get their 12, 15 episodes in, or their sponsor's going to pull their funding, and to where it's maybe it's a fun job, but it's just a job to them. That's where it starts getting really gross for me.
Let me just say, because he's going to leave in 4 minutes and nobody's thought about this more deeply than me. So let me try something. Mm-hmm. What if there was a rule against shooting more than 3 elk a year? Would you be like, would you then be disappointed in somebody that shot 4 elk in a year if it was a law?
I guess the law, I mean, we do have that law in Utah. You can only have 3 elk tags in Utah, which is a lot already. I think it has more to do with, I don't really think about the law. I think about the opportunity. I think okay.
So you'd be fine with them
Is there enough
poaching.
elk to go
You'd be
around?
you'd be fine with them poaching.
No,
That's not what he said, Matt.
No, I said if there was a law that you could only kill 3 elk a year and somebody killed 4, would you have a problem with that? It's a very simple question.
Yeah, I would have a problem if they broke the law.
Okay, so your moral edicts, your moral
of the elk available. I'm assuming that there's a limit on 3 elk because that's how many elk we have. And if you kill more than that, we're now reducing the population.
So
size.
okay, so you think that ethics very closely mirror ethics. They're in lockstep harmony.
Well,
so
I would say they're in lockstep harmony, but I would say they the goal of a law is to match morals. I don't think it always does, but I think it's the goal to match ethics. Yes, if that answers your question.
Well, it's the goal, but I'd say that I think there's all kinds of things that are legal and wrong. I could legally name my kid Dickface. There's no law against that. I could legally marry my cousin. You know?
Okay, so I guess let me get to the core of your question, because I think what you're getting at is how much do these people hunting all these elk affect the every guy's day's chance, right? Because the more elk they kill, the less elk there is for everyone else. And to me, hunting Utah, which has very low success rates, very low harvest rates for public over-the-counter tags, to me, there is plenty of opportunity. Yeah, but the success rates are single digits for archery. Sometimes they hit double digits for rifle. But to me, this is my fourth elk season. If I can go and do it, anybody can. So to me, there's still plenty of opportunity. I'm drawing an elk tag in Colorado that has 0 points and has a 20% success rate. To me, we haven't hit the point yet where there's just not enough elk around. There's no more tags. Yes, tags are hard to draw, but there's so much opportunity on over the counter, general season, 0-point draws. To me, there's still ample opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, where I guess we would, I guess we're the only that's compelling. The only place I would really draw, the only place I'd really draw the line is when somebody kills one more animal than they would otherwise kill because they're on social media.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with you on that, 100%.
And I think that happens.
Evan, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. I think you have a natural talent and some drive. That's pretty that's really given you an edge here. So you've had a fair amount of success for being pretty new to this. So I'm not going to say anybody can do it, but so I tell you what, I really appreciate you coming on.
I do too. It's been great, yeah. and you're a pretty compelling guy. Yeah.
Oh,
so if you wanted to talk about your method stuff for wound loss and what have you for archery or rifle, we'd love to have you back. Is there anything that you're uncomfortable with if this podcast getting published or anything like that?
No, please put it out, man. Okay. As long as everything, nothing gets clipped out of context or.
No, hell no, we don't. No, man.
Okay.
No.
Where do you guys post it at?
Exactly as it recorded is how it'll get published.
What's that?
Okay. Where do you guys post it?
Exactly.
It'll be all over. It'll be on every major. You're not a big podcast guy, I take it.
I have Spotify, but I don't use it that much.
Oh, it's on there.
Okay. Yeah. Where else can I find it? I don't have Facebook. I'm on YouTube.
You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Apple Podcast, Podbean. It's on all the major players.
Yeah, no, this was great. I love talking with you guys. We need to get back together again. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to discuss in the future because I'm reading. I've only scratched the surface on what there is to read on the elk studies. There's so much more. There's so much more. This I want to jump into too. So there's so much that we could talk about.
This is a conversation, like a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and Adam has some interest in it as well, obviously, because he's the one that lined this up. But yeah, this idea about, or like this study that you mentioned, that you lined out a little bit about the type of cartridge and all that, if you want to come back on and talk about that at some point, just reach out to us and we'll do this again.
Absolutely. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I got to get going. Thank you guys again for having me. this was fun. This was fun.
Thanks,
Super.
Evan.
Great. Enjoyed it very much. Adam, thanks so much for lining this up. Oh, hey, Evan, can you hold on for just 1 second? Because I have one quick question before you
Okay.
go.